What up, everybody? Davey Boy here, and today I'm bringing you a big guy's perspective of the LibTech Skunk Ape Camber. A board with a thirsty base. It takes a lot of waxing to keep the optimal glide on this thing. This board can be technical and a little catchy due to the full camber, and it does not have the best powder float, but this board has amazing grip, epic pop, it handles uneven snow really well. I'm talking certified chunder buster here. If you're a bigger rider that likes classic camber, this is a board you should look at. I rode this with Union Force bindings, Nitro Team TLS, and Burton Ion boots. I rode this for about 6 days. I got it out on some long days. I got it in 1.5 feet of powder that was nice and dry with a little crusty underbite. I got it in 1/2 foot of powder that wasn't as underbitey, and I got it on some good groomers as well. And I compared it against the Skunk Ape with the C2, a board that I've ridden several times over a few years. And this is an objective, honest review brought to you by our sponsor, Blower Board Shop. They've been in business and selling boards longer than I've been alive. So if you want to support us, the best way to do that is by buying through our links to Blower Board Shop. Thank you. So for sizing, this is a 165 wide. I'm 6'3½", 250 pounds with a size 12 boot. This board was the perfect size for me. I loved the length. I loved the bigger size. It wasn't too wide or it felt slow or clunky on snow. Getting on this made me realize why the Skunk Ape has such a strong fan base in the bigger rider community. For the shape, this board is directional, slightly tapered, but doesn't feel very tapered, and it feels pretty centered underfoot too. This board has 1 inch setback on side cut, and the reference stance is not published. I'm going to take a gander, and this is about what the reference stance will be for most riders. And with that, it's 1.075 inches back from center of board with a 22.75 inch stance width. So if you want to set it all the way back, for a powder day at 23.6 inches, you can get 2.3 inches back from center of board. So that's how you'll be standing on the board in all positions. Now, let's talk camber. You can see there's a healthy boa camber coming across this board. No early rise, nothing. This is just full camber from the nose to the tail. And the on-snow feel with this camber, this board tracks really well. It's aggressive, but it is not the best board for intermediate riders. It definitely can be catchy, and that's what you get with classic full camber. In comparison to the camber on the C2, this is a lot more loose, but it's also more forgiving. So if you're a beginner to intermediate who needs a bigger board and you're looking at the Skunk Ape, I think this one with the C2 will be a better option for you. Here's the flex for this Skunk Ape camber. This board is on the stiff side of medium stiff, and you need that to support the higher weight ranges for a big guy's board. Now let's look at the tail. Again, nice and stiff. And then we'll flip it around for the nose. A little bit softer than the tail, but still pretty stiff. And for buttering, this board is pretty stiff, and the camber is not helping you butter. Definitely a little bit harder to butter than C2, the rocker on the other Skunk Ape. When it comes to pop and ollie power, that's where I like the camber more than the rockered Skunk Ape. And this stiff tail and this stiff flex, it's a little bit harder to engage than some other boards because this is a nice, stiff, aggressive ride. But when you do engage it, it pops back and gives you a lot of spring out of your ollie, and you get rewarded for that effort. And for uneven snow, again, I think that's one of the areas where I like this Skunk Ape camber the most. This board's a great board, but when you get it into uneven snow, that's when this board becomes the upper echelon of big guy boards, where I haven't ridden many snowboards that are this big, this aggressive, but also this damp and stable going through chunder and uneven snow. This thing is a certified chunder buster. I love this thing in uneven snow. The Skunk Ape with the rocker just felt a little twitchy to me and just didn't hold that edge through uneven chunder the same way that this thing did. This is a whole nother tier up in terms of uneven snow riding, in my opinion, than the Skunk Ape with the rocker. So let's talk side cut and edge rolled. This has got a pretty aggressive magnet traction here. Combine that magnet traction with the camber, and this is an excellent board for hard snow riding. This is an East Coast specialist, an ice specialist, tremendous grip. tremendous edge hold. In comparison to the C2, that grips really well too, but it just doesn't have the same locked in stability on hard snow. That camber can feel a little loose and twitchy. It doesn't track quite as well. The turn initiation with this board is very fast. It's quick edge to edge, but the Skunk Ape with the C2 is gonna be a little faster. The rocker in the middle lifts the nose and tail off, so you're not turning from the tip and tail like you are with the Camber. So this board has a 8.6 meter side cut radius, and I would say this board is pretty middle ground for the turning experience, maybe leaning a slightly bit on the turny side. This board handles all different types of turning radius, everything from long, drawn out, down the line charging S-turns to deep trenched across the groomer carves and tight circle carves, U-turns, all across the board. This board is a confident turner. You can weight this board however you want, front foot, center, back foot weighted, and the spring out of the turn is exceptional. For speed, if you want to point it, you can. This board isn't full on ultra stiff, ultra aggressive bomber, but for an all mountain board, this is definitely on the faster, stiffer, aggressive side. And for base glide, this board definitely needs a good amount of wax, consistent waxing to keep it fresh with an optimal glide. The knife cut sintered base from LibTech, when it gets dry, it definitely has a lot of texture that can grip and kind of hold you, especially when you get into wetter, denser snow. You gotta wax this almost every day. For a directional board, this board would ride switch pretty well. Not a true twin, but definitely doable. This board would be an exceptional half pipe board. This holds an edge, very stable and sturdy, and I think you could charge confidently up a lot of pipe walls. When it came to jumps, I was thoroughly surprised with this board. It's aggressive and this has a lot of pop. This board tracks really well into an entry, feels confident, doesn't feel washy, and it has a good landing gear. This stiff tail definitely absorbs an impact pretty well and lays you down gently. Being a bigger rider, I did not feel like this tail was washy or too soft. And I found myself popping off of a lot of the rollers on the corduroy around Mount Bachelor. This board's fast and dynamic, and it opened up a lot of like these transition ollie pops that some of the smaller, less fast boards that I ride, you're not getting enough speed to pop off of them. Jibs, I'd probably pass for this thing unless you're just an absolute ripper who doesn't care. For a directional board, this is not gonna have as good a powder float as some of its competitors, but for as much camber as it has and as little setback as it has, I was actually pretty surprised with this float. I actually kind of enjoyed this thing in powder. If you're a bigger rider, you're used to riding camber, and you know how to keep your speed and playing well in powder, this board will work really well. Mount Bachelor is definitely a little bit of a flatter resort, and the powder I got this out in wasn't bottomless, so take this with a grain of salt, but I thought this board floated pretty well for a full camber board like this. And for the final thoughts, I am a new Skunk Ape loyalist. I've ridden the Skunk Ape with the C2 camber a few times over the years, and it never really blew my socks off. I always thought it was an all right board, but it wasn't ever something that special for me. But the camber profile on this thing has changed the game for me. This is one of my new favorite boards. It is a big guy, chunder busting specialist. This thing is damp, it's aggressive, it's stiff, it's poppy, and it is just so fun to get on edge, trench a carve, go all around the mountain. If you have a dedicated POW board, this is something that you could throw in for a little two-piece combo quiver, and you will have a great time in most of the conditions you'll get this thing in. And this is definitely a board I'm gonna be recommending for bigger riders that see a lot of hard snow. Seeing grips like a arm wrestling champ from Oklahoma.